What's up, everybody? So today we've got something a little new today. I am joined here by my good friend Rick of Let's Go Gaming.
Yeah. Something a little different, something a little out of left field, something that we can hope for continuing.
Rick's channel, check it out, Let's Go Gaming. It's right in line with the gaming content that is featured on here. He does a lot of survival horror. He's done. He's a big fan of Metal Gear Solid. Just recently, he finished Starfield and is on Lego Batman now. So pretty good variety. But it's definitely, if you've liked the content that is already on this channel, you'll definitely enjoy his as well. Because we're both big Resident Evil fans. That's actually how we met and came together. And he is also a very vital part of a lot of the short films on this channel. So we effectively started Two Ronin Pictures many, many moons ago.
Yep.
And we've always kind of toyed with the idea of doing like a little podcast, web series type thing where we just talk about, culture, games, media, mainly of the horror genre. So, this is going to be a little fun thing to get started off with.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lego Batman, it's a weekend deal. I just like being a kid sometimes, and that game has got a whole heck of a lot of callbacks. But looking forward to this year. My fingers are crossed that the new Silent Hill that's going to come out is going to be good because it's all going to be in first person.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And kind of segueing off of that, it's very interesting to see where a lot of these developers are kind of taking their games in a whole new direction. Like you mentioned, Silent Hill with Townfall going to first person, and I've seen a lot of people, of course, who are upset with that move. But number one, like I never like to critique a game until it's actually done and over with and played, because that's kind of how I felt with Silent Hill F. Like initially when it was first revealed, I think there were a lot of people that were very hesitant about it, and probably a lot of people that didn't play the game just like to criticize it for no reason. But when you actually go through and, I was actually, drove down to Rick's place and watched him play a little bit, like, I really enjoyed what Konami was going for and kind of the progression of it, and seeing how, like, the gameplay would change based on the playthrough you're going to. And it still maintained like that Silent Hill feeling of just kind of like mind-blowing revelation.
Well, I think when RE7 was first introduced and it went first person, there was backlash. It was they're just trying to act like PT, or, oh, here we go, first person shooter. Like it's a tough line to follow when, people want something different, but they want it to still be the same. So it's like you got to take a chance one way or the other. And at least in Capcom, for them with RE7, it worked out splendidly. Like it brought them back, which then brought us to the remix, which then brought us all the way up to what you and I accomplished last year, RE9. Or was it last year?
Yeah,
Was it last year?
this
I
year,
can't remember.
beginning of this year, or a couple months ago. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
because it
yeah,
came out in end of February, and
yeah.
yes, that was a very fun time. And it's like, not, when you bring it up, when you mention it like that, like going all the way back to Resident Evil 7, that's literally 10 years of Capcom just cooking with Resident Evil. Like they've ever since Resident Evil 7, it's been like home run after home run. Now there may have been a few little bumps, but like overall they've just been on a roll, just releasing great game after great game, which is, considering where Capcom was like right before Resident Evil 7. Of course, we have the nightmare of Resident Evil 6 and all those weird spin-offs like Operation Raccoon City. There was a pretty dark time where it felt like Resident Evil was like dead in the water. And like Resident Evil 7 was kind of like a last hurrah, like a desperate, attempt, swinging for the fences, go with something new. Like you said,
Absolutely.
they took the first person aspect that was in PT, which, could have turned out, very negatively too. I mean, the game, they could have flopped, but I mean, to its credit, I think it surprised a lot of people, and it brought back that horror atmosphere. And the success, what I like the most is that the success of that led them to develop the other games in the series and ultimately go back and do these remakes of these games that we as fans wanted to see for the longest time, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 and 4, and then as we are right now, the news that we are finally getting a Code Veronica remake.
Take my money now.
Yes, there are very few games today and nowadays that I am like that I need to play when it comes out. I'll give it a few months, but Code Veronica, or rather Veronica, as it's called now, is
Yeah.
going to be one of those games that I am definitely going to get day one, and it just feels good. Like, because like I said, I don't really, I'm not into gaming as much where it's like, okay, I need to play the first game for the first day, but this game, boy, like I like midnight, whenever it is midnight or 11, whenever they drop the
Yeah.
digital release, I will be up, because Code Veronica, just from a personal standpoint, is one of my favorites. I know a lot of people did not really like the original game,
Yeah.
but I feel it has a lot of potential. And I think like the greatest part is that either those who either didn't have a chance to play, or those who maybe were very critical of it, this is the chance to like bring those people back in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because, well, I mean, it was, I think, being developed around the same time as Resident Evil 3 because it came out on the Sega Dreamcast, later ported to the PlayStation 2, and it really, or maybe it was, no, yeah, because then 4 came out thereafter on the Wii. But it was like that last Resident Evil where it was the zombies, it was Umbrella, it was those things, and it was like the last remnant of the original, for lack of a better term, the original trilogy. But Veronica was tough, but sometimes fair. It gave you a firm hand, especially when it came to your weapons and ammo. But it still followed that same pace of the spookiness, the lack of everything you can get your hands on, lack of. But then it slowly got more and more action, more action, and then more action, and then here comes Chris. But the funny thing about Code Veronica, or just Veronica now, is, not to geek out too much, it kind of destroyed the story of 3 with Chris, who's supposed to be in Europe, but he ends up going to the Rockford Isle to find his sister, only to then go back to Europe, or am I messing that up?
So I think it's the same both in the original and the remake, where Chris is currently in Europe, in Paris. I guess he's investigating like an Umbrella facility out
Okay.
there. But then, like shortly after that, or rather, Claire goes to Paris to try to find him. But shortly after that is when she's captured and sent to Rockford Island, which is where the game takes place.
Yep.
And then Chris goes there. So it is cool that they're sticking with the storyline and they're expanding upon it. Because from the trailer, we see Claire actually in Paris, which is you only saw that in cutscene in the original version. So it seems like we're going to get like a little small gameplay segment, even if there's not much going on. We're probably going to control Claire through her time in Paris, and then ultimately getting captured by what we saw was Hunk, which is one thing you and I have talked about, which is really exciting, is that ever since the remakes, like the Capcom started redoing the series, they've been tying those in to the like newer games of the series. So like with Resident Evil 8 and with Resident Evil 9, it's kind of retroactively tying in a lot of the story elements and a lot of the characters together. So that's one thing I'm really looking forward to, is to see what Capcom has in store for trying to connect and bridge these separate like sections of the series together. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we're gonna see like some little hints about the connections which we saw in Resident Evil 9. There might be hints of that here with Wes, because Wesker is going to be in the game. Code Veronica was of course the game that Wesker returned, so obviously he's going to be in here with his organization. So maybe we'll see some little breadcrumbs of what eventually came to be in Resident Evil 9.
Yeah, 9 was weird with whatever his name was, Zeno or something.
Xeno.
I didn't.
Wannabe Wesker, we'll call him.
Yeah, wannabe. I did not like that character whatsoever. It was just like I don't know, an allusion to Wesker, which is I think what fans have been slowly kind of clamoring at, but I don't know. I know they didn't like Redfield in 7, and then he got really weird in 8, kind of. But he looked more like himself in 8 than he did in 7. I don't know what that guy was. God, he looked terrible in 7. But I think therein lies the issue, right? Like, you've essentially, with 7 and then 8, you kind of diverge into your own story, but then you pull in Chris Redfield, right? So now he's a minor major character, which then pulls you back into the OG story, but then you make the remakes, which kind of again changing the story where it's not so much like a fully reboot, but like a soft reboot, but you're still trying to connect a story that is, I mean, good God, I don't want to call it like Kojima levels of storytelling, but it's really hard to follow after so much, which I go back to certain, other horror franchises or game franchises within the, each game is its own isolated story. And if there is a connection, it's just like a small little Easter egg, right? It's nothing like super crazy, it's like, what was it? Final Fantasy X. I think the character's name was Midgar or something. And obviously Final Fantasy VII, the major city where the game starts off at is Midgar. The only real, obviously Silent Hill 3, but even then that was just like a minor connection. It was really about, what's her name? Was it Heather? And her
Heather Mason,
story,
yeah.
her psychological breakdown, but that's the way to go back to the original point, the way Capcom is doing it, I think has been pretty smart. Like, hey, we know it's convoluted, we know it's crazy, and not everything made sense because we wanted to make $1, especially with those shooter games, which was just one big microtransaction. But they're being smart about it and they're being good about it. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's Resident Evil. Like, they set that standard a long time ago that, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but as long as it kind of makes sense, we're on the right way. So let's just keep doing it. So from a story standpoint, Veronica could be really super interesting to see what they're going to do to expand or tighten up or whatever. Because, obviously, like you brought up, Wesker's in it.
And I think it's also a little out of left field, as you were saying, for Resident Evil, because we all kind of know what Resident Evil is, what it was, and what fans accepted it to be. Just kind of, a little campy, a little cheesy, but overall fun. But now I feel like maybe I start before 9. I think starting with like maybe the 3 remake is that you could tell that Capcom was shifting from like, all right, just having a ridiculous story to having a story with a little bit more gravity, a little bit more weight. And I've said before that I feel like Resident Evil 9 was their attempt at doing like their version of like a Phantom Pain story, like all tie in together. Of course, I'm not saying they're on the level of a Kojima game, but you can kind of tell like there's a lot of story elements that they're bringing up, and they're trying to like present these conspiracies and then breaking them down one by one. Like you saw how Raccoon City was still standing, and they kind of worked that into the lore in some way. And I was thinking like, man, are they gonna drop some huge like revelation like in the Phantom Pain when we realize we're not even Big Boss anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I felt like we were coming up for like a twist like that, but I mean it shows that Capcom is taking their own like IP and backstory a little more seriously now. And it's almost like the training wheels are off. I feel like the original games, the original trilogy, quadrilogy was like, okay, like they just, like you said, they're just putting a story together. It doesn't really need to make sense, but as long as it's there, it's fine. But now like they're really focusing on it, and they're really utilizing this new engine to better tell that story. And for Code Veronica, I think the best part for me is that it is a game, believe it or not, that does have a lot of like really in-depth story points. A lot of people kind of like look back at the story very, negatively because it's kind of hokey, and the original performances were over the top theatric. Steve was just, insufferable in most cases, but like if you have a more serious voice cast, which they've done a great job at hiring like proper voice actors like in the past 10 years, so I have no doubt that the performances are going to be a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
But I think with that, you're going to have a lot more of a serious tone to this story that's pretty significant to the rest of the series, because you have the Ashfords, who are kind of unknown, but like they're actually a very integral part to like the Umbrella Corporation, using their wealth and their kind of their standing to help bring the company off the ground. And then like in storyline too, it kind of serves as like a middle ground. You were kind of saying like that is the pretty much the last of the original Resident Evils, and then you segued into 4. So I think it's going to be pretty important. Like some of the things that we see, some of the viruses they explore, and just what Wesker's angle really is, and then how that might even relate to like Hunk or someone.
Yeah.
And then seeing like the project, Code Veronica with twins, and seeing Alexia. One thing that I want them to expand upon, and it's very similar to what they did in Resident Evil 9 with Leon when he went back to the RPD and he had all these memories and these flashbacks. So very, very cool part. But there's a similar moment in Code Veronica where you actually go back to the Spencer estate, or rather it's a replica of the mansion from the first game. And of course there is a story lore of why it's the exact same thing, because the Ashfords, Edward, he really liked Spencer's mansion that was created. So then he wanted his own, basically. So he actually, in storyline, got the same architect to build his mansion. So I think it would be cool if they kind of do, like, with Chris, what they did with Leanne, where he steps in and all of a sudden he has this, like, PTSD. He's remembering the first time they went into the mansion and maybe the first time they saw the zombie, and hopefully it triggers like these flashbacks for him. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, hey man, as long as it's going to deliver. I think you and I had texted a while back when it was announced. I was like, they've had enough time with the engine. The game's going to be fine from a RE engine perspective. It's just going to be, how that is initiated, because they've got the engine down now. It's down pat. They don't need to worry about next gen PS6 bullshit. Like they know what they're doing. They know how they're cooking. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Monster Hunter, and that game is cooking quite well. They got a expansion or DLC coming out. I think it's next year. So super excited about that. So, I mean, yeah, I hope it'll deliver. I mean, it's Resident Evil. If the story is like even the exact same, let's just say as Code Veronica, it's still the game. Like I think you and I talked about how people are getting tired of remakes, right? It's the same game but remade on a newer, brighter, better engine, whatever. I'd rather have a remake than like 15 air quote remasters, where they remastered the game but all they do is put like a little filter over it to make it look a little sharper, a little brighter, or a little darker, or whatever. I mean, we can all sit and roll our eyes at what they did to RE4, or like, Skyrim or Grand Theft Auto, getting released, I don't know, countless times since it came out. When was that, 2013 or some shit? Like, super annoying. Like, I'd rather have that remake than have remasters out the wazoo. Because you can remaster games, call it remaster, and just put a filter over it, and then charge everybody $50. Or, now they're getting up to $70, $80. Thanks, Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous, the whole gaming business side of the gaming sphere. But no, I'm 100% behind you. Like, there's like no harm in having a remake. Like, if you just want to stick to the originals, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to mess with the remakes because whatever, like, you don't think they're gonna live up, or you think it's gonna ruin it, fine. Like, that's fine. But like, yes, a remake is actually a lot more content, and it's a lot more valuable than just retouching a game. And yeah, it looks nicer, but it's like that whole illusion that you're playing something new. It's like you're just polishing it, but like you're playing the same game.
They'll it's just a port, but they'll call it a remaster, HD remaster, 4K remaster.
Yeah, like you said, Resident Evil 4 has been I don't even, it's stretched from like the PS2 era all the way to like the PS5 era. Like, that is literally how long they've been remastered. And I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about just the OG game.
Yeah,
it's been ported so many times, and it's like, now that's like, enough is enough. Like, okay, we don't need to keep bringing it back, which is why I'm happy they remade it, actually, was because it's like, okay, that should put an end to everyone who just wants to keep playing Resident Evil 4 on every single new console. Well, you got your new Resident Evil with the 4. Actual remake. And like, it's actually, I don't really go on like, the internet like portion of it where it's like you see all these fans, but there are a lot of fans who just like hate the remakes. And like, I'm okay, maybe some of the remakes didn't do like some parts as well as like the originals, but like I just don't see how you can objectively say that like Resident Evil 2 remake was a bad game. Even Resident Evil 3, like, a lot of people of course are going to critique it for being short, But like, I know you and I have said, I've actually really enjoyed that game as a whole.
Yeah.
And yes, it didn't have all the parts in it, but like, I think it was still a pretty fine game. With the parts it did remake were pretty good. They're pretty smooth. The Resident Evil 4 was great. So like, I just don't understand how people can like say, oh well, these remakes are definitively worse.
Well,
Which I just
I think with 3 was the price tag. That was probably the major
sure
like
sure
blowback was you're charging me for the same price as of 2. You're charging me the price of a new game, right? It's you're using your own proprietary engine, yada yada yada, but you took some stuff out, and it's actually kind of sort of even shorter. Like maybe you should have just charged me like a cool $30 and called it a day.
yeah,
But I think that was really the real backlash. But my thing is if you know, everyone's got an opinion. Gaming, it is insane how opinions fly, and people agree, right? Just don't buy it and move along, and don't get mad at people who are enjoying it. Like, uh, I don't know. I mean, some people, they just don't like it because it's like, hey, you know, you got to play the OG, or you got to understand, or oh, look all the stuff they changed, or they're just going to ruin the franchise. Like, there's hesitation with that. You know, I was hesitant with the Silent Hill 2 when they did the remake. I was very nervous, very worried, and boy howdy, even with Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, I was nervous as hell. Like, oh god. But as I looked into it more and saw the previews and such, I was like, well, let's see how they're going to do this. And it worked out quite well. I really enjoyed Delta, enjoyed the holy hell out of it. Just like I did, you know, Resident Evil 2 and Silent Hill 2. And it just, as we were all aware, eventually, you know, we're seeing it. Not to go on a tangent, but so with Grand Theft Auto being digital only, even if you go and buy the physical copy, it's just a case. It's nothing, right? So everyone's upset, saying, okay, here's how it all happens. It's overpriced. The whole point of going digital was to lower the price. The price was never lowered going digital. It's been the same price ever since. Now you got PlayStation saying, hey, we're getting rid of discs coming 2028. Everyone's saying, oh my God, you know, they just stole 500, you know, of my downloaded videos, right? Well, gaming isn't streaming yet. But I think when gaming goes streaming, just like with streaming services, that's when you're going to start losing your purchases, in my opinion. Not to totally go off on a tangent, but you know, you buy a game, you got a game. I know with PlayStation, there was this rumor, or it wasn't even a rumor. I think it was found that they wanted to track your time on how you were, you know, how often you were logging in, yada, yada, yada. And now it's like, if you don't log into your PlayStation after 3 years, they can delete your whole digital library and you lose all your purchases, which I think is absolute BS. But I understand the fear. I understand where it's coming from. For those that don't like remakes, hopefully you've got the original physical version of the OG game, and you can play it on your, you know, PS2 or PS1, because I mean PS3 again, their store's shutting down. So hopefully it doesn't require an internet connection to you know, Sony doesn't try to backdoor saying you still got to have an internet connection to use the PS3 kind of deal. So, like, to go back to the original point, for those that don't like remakes, then don't worry about it. I mean, as long as you've got the original physical copy of the game, then you'll play it for the rest of your life. But I've just seen a lot online, and a lot of friends have been texting me about, oh man, we're never going to own anything. And it's partially true on streaming services because of the way the contracts are set up. That's why you have Netflix and, you know, HBO saying leaving soon, coming soon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When the gaming world goes to just streaming games, which I don't necessarily know is too far off, that's when I would get nervous and get worried, because then there's the whole, you know, Konami licenses to these set of games to PlayStation, and then they'll do another set for Microsoft and Xbox or whatever. And then that's when you could possibly and probably will lose your ownership or whatever. But, you know, if they're, which they won't, but if they're charging, you know, $20 a game, then $20 and you get to maybe hold it for 2 years. Okay. But, you know, I think Grand Theft Auto, which will probably be one of the biggest hype games, you know, because Rockstar's never let folks down when it comes to their mainline entries. But I think it's just a bad precedent. The price, digital only. And it's not like it's a couple gigs. Like,
And like to be fair, and by no means am I like justifying what they're doing, but I just feel like this is the direction that they've been heading for a while now. Even like PS4 era, I would say, when it seemed like games were a lot more convenient to buy digitally. Like there would be some times where you can't even get your hands on a physical copy of a game, so you have to get it digitally. Especially like if you want to play it day one and you want to like pre-order it, but then they're all out. Like either you wait for another physical batch to come in, or you have to download it. So like I think they've kind of been gearing towards that. So like this has already been in motion for a while now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Sony kind of dipping their feet in the water, seeing what they can get away with, and like slowly until like we get to that part where it is, streaming only. But like that just kind of like you brought up a point where it's like, if you don't like the newer games, at least you have your original copies. And it's like the PS1, PS2 era, I feel like those were the golden days of gaming in terms of the quality of games, and in terms of like actually physically owning them. Like that's when you have collectibles, a lot of the collector items are going to be like the older games, whether it's like N64 before the SNES. Like those are the ones you're going to want to have physical copies. And I'm saying this kind of to go back to our point of the remakes. Like this is saying that we enjoy the remakes is not saying that the originals are bad.
No.
I think the appreciation for the remakes is because of how much, we enjoy the originals, and we see how they take that and convert that into a new engine. No, it's not going to be the exact same game. I know some fans wanted the Resident Evil 2 remake to be literally like, all right, shot for shot, fixed camera angles, and like it just it can't. Like it might work, but like that's not the point of taking a game and then like redoing it in a current sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like the game, it would be one thing if like you remake the game and it's literally the exact same thing. I'm sure it'll be fun. It'll elicit nostalgia, but like it won't really be its own experience. What I particularly like about these remakes is that, like, yes, you do feel like you're playing Resident Evil 2, but then at the same time, you feel like you're playing a brand new game.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, even if you know the story, you know what's going to happen, the way it plays out and the way that the gameplay is just feels so different. Like you're lost. Like, even if you know your way around the police station, you're still going to get lost, and you're still going to be confused, and you're still going to have that great sense of survival horror dread where it's like, oh man, do I have enough spots in my inventory open? Am I going to need health? Should I take this item, or should I save that to pick up a key item? Like, all of that was new again, and that's because that they redid the games in a completely new way that we have that feeling. And it's like, I think it's a very delicate balance to pay homage and respect the original source material while making it new and fresh. And I think Capcom has done a very good job at that, at being still in the vein of what the original was, but then just bringing it to a modern sense and like making it its own game in of itself. And I think that is what has kept the Resident Evil series specifically afloat. And it's brought them back from obscurity. It's done two things as well. It has brought back in old fans, and it's also showed newer fans kind of like, okay, what the series is all about. And I think that's very smart with them, how they're doing it. I haven't really seen other developers take this approach, but it seems like they'll do a remake and then the next game in the series, and then a remake and then the next game in the series. So it's like you're still making the old games relevant and show how they relate to the new games in the series, which I think is genius on their end. So I mean, they've really hit their stride. They've really turned it around, and it's exciting to see what the Resident Evil series is doing. And now, like, switching gears a little bit to like Silent Hill, I think you can kind of say that Silent Hill is following a very similar trajectory, where it's like there was a period where Silent Hill was dead in the water. You had the games from the Western developer.
God!
I forget what it is.
Did you have to bring that shit up?
Well, I bring it up just of how parallel kind of Silent Hill has been to Resident Evil. Of course, from the start, you have a very strong opening, revolutionary, game-changing. Your first three games are amazing, and then the series dips. But then, like, with Silent Hill, you had, like, Homecoming, you had Origins, you had just all these downpour, like these really atrocious games where it's like, oh man, is Silent Hill ever really gonna regain its valor? But then you have Kojima, who blows everyone's minds with PT, and that's still one of like probably the biggest like just gaping hole within gamers, is that the fact that never came to fruition. But I mean, positively enough, after that, I think Silent Hill slowly started to regain its momentum. You had a flurry of games that came out, short games like the Short Message, and then a few other ones. Some of them were okay, some of them were better than others. But then you have games like the Silent Hill 2 remake, which was incredible. You have Silent Hill F, which was in my opinion, a very good Silent Hill as well. And now, like, you've got these new games, Townfall, and we're probably going to see some more remakes now, considering Konami is probably looking at Capcom and seeing how successful Resident Evil has been with remakes.
Yeah.
And just how successful Silent Hill 2 remake was. So I totally feel like they're going to go back. And whether it's Silent Hill 1, Silent Hill 3, I do think they're not done remaking Silent Hill either.
No, I think 3 will eventually show itself. I don't know about 1. That might be too much. I mean, this is still Konami we're talking about. That might be too much effort for them. From a monetary perspective, they may just want to say, okay, do 3 and then we'll call it. Because, that was the big announcement. Was it like 2 years ago? They're going to have a new universe. The new movie absolutely sucked ass. But they had F, which was still good. They had 2. You've got the Townfall. So maybe next year will be 3, which I think a lot of people will be hyped for, because what they did with 2 was almost tip for tap of the original 2, but added some really sweet flavors into it with the James seeing the pictures that were from the original Silent Hill. Just again, it's Silent Hill. The thing about Silent Hill that Silent Hill can get away with, what makes Silent Hill a Silent Hill game, it doesn't have to necessarily take place in Silent Hill. It's the psychological factors of what they're going through and why they're going through it. Whereas, Capcom put themselves in a corner when it was all the zombie stuff, right? So you kind of have to be careful with, that's why like Fatal Frame can still go on to this day, right? Spooky Ghosts on Camera. You can just open up the world with that. But yeah, that's kind of how I think Konami can do it right. It's just about the psychological aspect of it, where, yeah, it's the psychology. I mean, that was F. That's going to be Townfall. That was 1, 2, and 3, kind of 4. We won't talk about the other bastardizations or their stupid dungeon crawler. What was that? Shattered Books or some shit. Yeah, and they can't, just like with Resident Evil, when it comes to Hollywood, Silent Hill and Resident Evil just can't get a break.
No, yeah, and it's laughable.
Alone in the Dark, didn't it get a really shit? Who was it? Christian Slater starred in or some shit? And it was terrible.
That was one of the Uwe Boll masterpieces.
Oh. Yeah.
So along with Alone in the Dark, House of the Dead, Blood Rain, these games that are already obscure on its own, that's the last thing they needed was for that egomaniac to get his hands in it. But yeah, like I don't even think people even really, because like those movies, if you want to talk about like these Resident Evils, these Silent Hill Hollywoods, like not being anything like the games, that is literally the epitome of like, this dude has literally zero sense of what a game is, and he makes a movie, and he puts Tara Reid in it next to Christian Slater, and it's like that really screams Alone in the Dark to me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But that's I don't know. It's like it goes back to like the folks that don't like the remakes, right? And I can understand where they're coming from. It's not a tip for tap, but like Hollywood they can literally do a tip for tap. And it'll succeed because that's what people want to go in and see, almost the same thing that they played. But for some reason, when it gets into their hands, they just use the name as a launch pad to get people to watch and buy it. It makes no sense to me. Like, I remember being very let down with the first Silent Hill film. I was like, wow, this really kind of missed the mark big time. Wasn't really happy with it. I think I fell asleep for the second one. It put me to sleep. I was just like, wow. And then the Resident Evil I won't even get into, but it just seems like when it comes to the video game horror, it just doesn't work. Hence why we've got these YouTube people, YouTube directors making banco bunko bucks on in Hollywood now. They've got great ideas. They know what they're doing. I mean, you got people in Hollywood that can't take a game that's got its own story, its own universe, and they can't even get it right because they want to make it cool, different, and I'm going to upset some people with this, and it just goes to shit. And yeah.
Yeah,
Hollywood,
and it's,
man.
I mean,
I'm happy we've got these independent people making it, because I think everyone's been saying for like the past decade, like they ran out of ideas? Like, what's going on?
no, yeah, I mean, just the whole like movie industry in general. We want to talk Hollywood. It's like they've become so like monopolized, and like, they're just this big conglomerate now that it's literally a machine that's pumping out like like it's not even a matter of like artistic expression or like of meaningful like stories. It's literally just like, all right, what's the next product of the month so people can go into the theaters. Which is like, I mean, that's showing like people are, and part of it is streaming, but like there's less and less movie sales. Movies are grossing less and less, and the whole streaming, service model has changed that dramatically. But it just gonna go to the main point is like the quality is significantly going down, especially with video game movies. And like here's the real like just mind scratching part is like recently there have been a few video games that have gotten really good adaptations. I would say the first season of Last of Us was really good.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would say I really enjoyed the Twisted Metal show for what it was. But it's like those are so like that's proof that okay, you can take a video game story and adapt it into something meaningful and quality. But then, like you said, like it's very refreshing to see like these younger directors who made their name on YouTube actually get a shot, and I think that is like the perfect model to like try to break through whatever this garbage mold is that that the movie industry has created. But like
the Backrooms beat out Star Wars in theaters.
That's crazy to think about. Like considering the roots of where Kane Parsons, I believe his name was, where he started, and like just how bare bones it was. I mean, he got a little bit of backing like when he was making the movie, but like it was still very independent by every sense of the word. And it's like just the fact that people are more willing to see that because they know that he is directing from a place of passion.
Well, there was another small horror film that just recently came out too. It came out like the week before. Obsession.
Yeah, well, Obsession. I actually just saw that yesterday. Funnily enough, it was insane. Like just the structure, the pacing, and the lighting was amazing. But like just the way that it presented itself as a horror piece was very unlike like your typical run-of-the-mill horror movie now. Whether it's slasher, whether it's like psychological horror, whether it's like a paranormal activity type. It's very nice to see these independent people going in and like having a vision and then just bringing it to life and then just going balls to the wall. Like I'm not a huge fan of Markiplier, to be honest. I haven't really even seen much of his content, but like I remember he made his movie.
Yeah, Iron Lung.
That was like Iron Lung, yeah, and it just put like Hollywood to shame by what he was able to do. Now Markiplier, he's a little different. He's got a lot more of a following, so he's got a lot more clout. But like with Obsession, with the Backrooms, like it's just proof that if you love what you're doing, like you can make a solid film. Because Obsession the budget was like $750K, which in movie sense is literally peanuts.
Yeah.
And the fact that turned around and it grossed like over, what was it, like 40 million?
Yeah.
That's like a modern day like Texas Chainsaw, I don't know, like taking something very, very low budget and then turning into this huge thing. So like kudos to that, and I hope that that's the trend that we start seeing with like these big theatrical productions, is that they start looking for talented filmmakers in smaller spaces and not just go to like the big studio system where it's like, all right, well, cookie cutter, here's the next superhero or whatever.
Well, and Hollywood kind of put themselves in a bind, right? They forgot how to do long-term storytelling. I think Marvel proved that after their first phase, because they wanted to be like, I guess, like the TikTok of TV series and films and web comics and shorts and animated and all these different things where they just totally convoluted their own air quote universe. And then everything like people would take their time with or watch would either get reintroduced in the film or just totally thrown out the window. Like case in point with Sam Wilson, who's supposed to be the new Captain America, but in Doomsday, they're bringing back Captain America. So what was the whole fucking point? Right. And yeah, I mean, Star Wars went down the shitter, obviously. like it's like they want to take the safe options, quick, easy money, just slap the name on it, slap, Marvel, slap whatever, and we'll at least break even. But then you've got Hollywood math where they can then, claim for insurance and shit. So they'll still make money anyway. But it's sad to see some of those strong franchises just really start to go to shit. But it's also nice to see because certain, production companies are willing to take chances on someone you've never heard of. Markiplier had it because he had his own money, right? He's a very well off person, and good for him. And he had that money so he could go and find his passion and go do his thing. I think it was almost totally independent. And then there were rumors that they were trying to hide his box office numbers because they didn't want people to know that. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, if you do what you're trying to do to these new and upcoming folks, whether they're on YouTube or who gives a shit, new up and comers, totally independent or out of nowhere, you would have killed, Steven Spielberg in the late 1960s, or George Lucas, or whoever the hell. You know what I mean? There may be that next big great thing, but Hollywood just doesn't want to get out of their own, out of their own way. But numbers talk, and money don't lie. So hopefully this gives the opportunity to other up and comers, independent filmmakers, to maybe get a chance and get some money and try to really show their vision, which with Obsession, Backrooms, and even Iron Lung, which was developed off of a video game, off of a PC game, I think it was still their passion, it was still their vision, and they got a company behind them to say, here's your funds, get it done by this day, don't expect much from us. I'm just air quoting it all, but it seems like with those films, they were able to do and get their vision across, and it worked out. And good for them. I'm happy. I always like it when the indies come up. We would have never gotten, Paranormal Activity, probably would have never gotten Saw, right? Blair Witch, which opened up a whole new genre. And hopefully, Kane Pixels or whatever, the Obsession, and, Markiplier hitting it with Iron Lung. Maybe there's something else that he is really, truly, involved with or wants to see. I like it when the indie stuff, hits mainstream, because it's from those indie folks sometimes that you get a whole new genre, or it populates a genre that hadn't gotten its respect yet.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing also that goes hand in hand with like these new up and coming directors who are, showing their vision is like the whole trend for companies, and including Hollywood or really any type, any production studio that is like very big into using AI as a form of replacement.
No.
It's nice to see that these newer guys are they're not giving into that either. That's like, all right, well, we're still gonna, create it, very modestly, like actually make it for real, and not like try to fake it. So it's like I think it's necessary for a newer, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like young. I mean, most of these guys are younger, but like just in terms of freshness of ideas, like. Yeah. It could be someone who is older, who has already like been, trying to make it but hasn't gotten a chance. Like Absolutely. They can present a very good vision or a story or whatever. And it's like hopefully, like you said, that these production companies, and I know A24 is a big one for the indies.
Yeah.
Hopefully more start jumping on that, where it's like, okay, well, we see. I think we're kind of re-entering the phase of the auteur, where it's like, okay, these directors have vision, they have purpose.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, it's like you see a big AAA movie, and you don't really see it because of the director. You see it because of the franchise. Like take Fast and the Furious. Like people go to see that because it's Fast and the Furious. But I bet you can't. I mean, unless you're a diehard, you're not going to be able to distinguish between like the director of Fast 6 and Fast 7. Like you don't even know who the director was. It's like people don't really see movies because the director. And that was something that was big in like the 50s, 60s with guys like Hitchcock. And then later on you have like George Lucas. People want to see a movie just because they know the director's work. I guess, Chris Nolan is kind of like that. But like I feel like these guys that, the Backrooms, Obsession, like they've got a certain blueprint to their work where it's like I'm probably going to be, anticipating to see what their next films are because I enjoyed what they did with these. So I'd probably support it just because it's, these directors.
Yeah, you just got to be. This is like the double-edged sword that I think everybody they want to get there, but then you also have to worry about when your vision gets lost to shilling, right? Where how many Conjurings do they really need to be? It's like it gets to that. I call it the Marvel point, where you just slap on a superhero and put Marvel Universe, and then it piques interest regardless. So you've got those startups. You just got to make sure you keep your vision and try to keep your boots on the ground, and don't let the the corporations carry you away, and then buy the rights, and then you've lost everything, because they're really good at doing that, I think.
Oh yeah, and I think it's a very well. I mean, to be fair, it's a very hard conflict to avoid, because it's like, well, here's my chance to just be super rich and be have my name up there and not have to do the hard work, but then like still wanting to maintain your own autonomy and your own value in your work. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a lot of that, especially like you said, double-edged sword. Once you make something and it becomes super successful, then like the next ones you make, there's gonna be outside elements influencing you on that. Yeah. Or you might be trying to even like fall back on the success of the first one and then just try to replicate that, which you shouldn't just try to redo. Like, it shouldn't be the next Obsession movie is just like Obsession with a new story. It should be like its own thing, but that's a risk,
So, and you just brought up a really, really good point. Sometimes and that's why I respect, a lot of folks that make it. You made it there, you earned that right. You're going to make mistakes, but I'm not going to automatically jump and shit on you, because it goes back to the point you made. Sometimes you go back to it and you don't want to take too much risk, or you do that situation where you do Backrooms 1, Backrooms 2, and then you do something totally different, and then everyone ostracizes you for it. Like, oh man, you sold out, you signed with Sony Pictures and you're making whatever movie, you sold out, and it's like, you don't know that. Maybe this person's really interested in it and now has the backing of hundreds of millions of dollars to maybe make something special. You just don't know yet. Or maybe they said, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do it. You're going to pay me how much to do this fucking film? Yep, I'll do it. Don't care about the backlash. I don't have to direct ever again. I mean, there's some people out there that have probably done that. Like, fuck it, it's payday. I don't have to work again. I'm done. I'll just write stories and do novels. Whatever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to really fault them for doing that, because like, if you're in their position, you can't say that you would or you wouldn't, because I mean that's life-changing opportunities for you. But kind of to segue a little bit, you kind of have the video game equivalent of someone who is very much an auteur and like will not meddle with companies trying to input their influence, and that's Kojima. Which I wanted to bring him up because I read something that's very interesting. I think he is with I can't remember if it's Xbox, if it's Microsoft, that he is developing like this new horror game, I believe with Jordan Peele, but it sounds like he's trying to like reuse some of the ideas he had for PT in this, which sounds really exciting. Just very disappointing that it's a Microsoft exclusive. So I am very upset that unless we get an Xbox, we won't play. But it does seem like it's going to be kind of like a groundbreaking horror game. Like there's supposedly a system in place where like if you get too scared to play, or if it gets too scary, like the game will automatically kind of like solve itself or like complete the part that's like too scary. It just sounds wild. Like it just sounds very innovative, like some of the technology he's going to implement in it. And it's just it's exciting because I don't think Kojima really ever had that chance to do his horror game that we would have seen with PT.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, because I think it was Alien Isolation. They put a lot of, which the alien was really not much, wasn't in the game that much, but I think they put a lot of work into like its algorithm, its AI, to outsmart you so that you couldn't just stay at one place the whole time. That it would pick up on where you were and then go to find that spot or whatnot. So I like games that have a system that tries its best, right, to keep you on your toes. And if there's
especially horror game.
Yeah, coding, where the game is picking up on how you're reacting, that causation, that's gonna be fucking cool. It's a Microsoft exclusive, sure, but I don't see it. They'll, Kojima's a man who likes to spread his vision. He likes to spread it to as many people as he can. And I could see him, if it's a successful game, saying, okay, I got to get it over to Sony somehow. Because the more he's all about sharing that and sharing those stories. So it'll eventually come to PlayStation. My fingers are crossed. But it's Kojima. So the game may not come out for another 5 years.
True. But I mean, to give him his chops, like, that wait is worth it. Like, the extra time he spent developing Death Stranding 2 was like, okay, it's worth it. Like, I could see why you needed this extra time to perfect it.
I remember finishing Death Stranding the first time, and I played it again for my YouTube channel. I think I sent it to you, and I may have sent it to other friends, but I was like, Death Stranding 2 is like the full release, and Death Stranding was just like an alpha or beta version of his ultimate goal. So, like, how you talk about Resident Evil 1.5, and then we got 2, right? Mm-hmm. It was like Death Stranding 1.14, and then he released Death Stranding, which just happened to be called Death Stranding 2. Like, that game, God, that's such a great game. I've made the comment, my wife bought me the collector's edition, which came with the one scale BB pod and whatever, and she was nervous that I wasn't going to like the game. She was super fucking nervous. And I poured a lot of time. And that, take my money, right? And to go back to one last point, I really want to go back to the digital purchasing bullshit, because it was supposed to drop our fucking prices and it didn't. The other thing too is, the pricing mechanisms and all that other bullshit, but something like a Death Stranding, that was worth my money. There are certain games that I know everyone's like, oh man, $60-70 in this day and age. Fuck, times are still tough, and I can get that. But there are those diamonds in the rough too, where you spend, $20 and you get a game that you pour, 50 or 60 hours to. I'm a big RPG guy. So, I mean, an RPG done right, you can get 30 to 40 hours. And if you spent $40 on it, I think it all equals out. And if it has high replayability, even better. That's the only thing Death Stranding's missing, is like a new game plus. And I don't necessarily know how you would not invent that, but introduce that, other than just keeping the skill trees and such, and maybe certain carryovers. That's the other thing I like about, especially with going back to Resident Evil, is the high replayability. Even back in the day. I mean, you look at Resident Evil 2, you had 2 different characters to play. You look at Resident Evil 1, you had 2 different characters to play. RE3 kind of sort of did it. I mean, shit. And then RE4, you beat it, you get unlocks, just like in the previous 3. That's the other thing I like. I just want to really get that point across, but the whole digital bullshit lie was, oh, if we all go digital, it's going to save us some costs, and it'll bring the cost of games down. But on the flip side, games are so fucking expensive because it's almost like producing a goddamn Hollywood movie. So, enough of my gaming rant, sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think in a lot of places it is as complicated, just in a different, like, technological sphere, to create a good game, because there's a lot more moving elements too that you got to work on, the coding, the bugs, all these issues. Anyway, what people also have to remember is that when going back to like PS1, PS2, like, games still weren't like really cheap. Like, they were still at the very least like $40 on new release, from what I remember. Even the PS2 era had like $50 new releases too. So I mean, games were always pretty expensive when they were brand new, but it's like, I got that. And I think that's even more relevant now. It's like, if you're willing to spend your money on a game, that's because you should know that, okay, this is a developer / a series that I really love and enjoy, and I'm spending this money not necessarily because I think it's, it's cheap or anything, but because I know it's going to be a good value. As long as the game has value in it. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the other deal that we really missed upon on, especially with digital releases, is the past 10 years, if not more, of games releasing that should have not been released for another year. I mean, you can look at Cyberpunk as a great example. or these fucking digital games that are online and they don't even last a year, and people are spending full fucking price. So you've got someone who pre-orders the game, they get the game, and it's fucking broke. And it's digital, right? So you got all these people who are buying these digital games, and they're $60-$70 and they're fucking broken on day one, and you don't even really get to play the game for however long, or you have to fight to get your fucking refund back. The developer has to get involved. So I think that also solidifies this whole digital only problem of, well, now you're giving them even more avenues to release dog shit, and they'll just say, well, we'll fix it, we promise we'll fix it, and they'll take the 100-person team, take 90 of them, get them on a new project, and then throw everything on 10 people and say, you better fix it, you need to get it fixed, and also I need like 30 more microtransactions. Whereas now with digital, you get all the hype, like Cyberpunk, again, a great example. One, because they redeemed themselves. But what they showed and what they released, I mean, I could even go down the Dark Souls 2 rabbit hole of what they showed and then what they released were not the same fucking thing. Not even close. With the whole shadow, darkness, you needed a torch. I'm a huge Dark Souls fan. Elden Ring, Bloodborne, etc. But yeah, the digital landscape, it can open up opportunities for just releasing dog shit, just to get folks money, because we go back to the original point of what everyone's worried about, which is the whole you'll own nothing and like it. Which then you can, I'm not going to go any further, but then you can get into the whole, well, how's it illegal to pirate a game if I don't own it?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, especially if you take into consideration, especially if it moves into the streaming service, like, there will be a point of time where you just have no access to that game. Like, that game will just not exist to play, on the up and up. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? Just never play the game again? So, and they've done that with a lot of, like, older games, too. Like, whatever, if it was on a streaming service, there's a really good channel on YouTube. His name is Ross from Accursed Farms. He is really big on, like, he has this movement called Stop Killing Games, where it's literally all about that.
And I think it was the EU fucking shat on it at the last minute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. But, like, it also is just so mind-boggling that these companies, that these publishers are they're knowingly releasing games that are either too bugged to play or broken. And it's like, it's not like it's an accident. They understand that, and as evident by day one patches. Like, how are you going to have a patch release for the very first day? Like, that means that that there's bullcrap with the game already. Yeah. So it's like, I just don't see, like, isn't there a QC, a quality control phase? Like, no. What's going on with all these, like, quote unquote, testers, or, these,
they don't use them.
Supposed, like, testing.
They used to have quality assurance folks. They used to have quality testers. They used to have people that would sit, and I don't want to call it playing a game. They were testing a game and running around, running into corners, doing stupid stuff, taking very detailed notes, keeping the game on, just keeping the game, their console on overnight to see if there was a memory bug, and all that jazz. They just release it to the public and let the public be their testers so they can save money. And it's a business, so they're releasing that shit at a certain place at a certain time to get those sales numbers in, so they can go and report that to the CEO, who's then going to report that to the board. Right.
And do honestly, which is why it's like, all right, these games that are coming out that we enjoy, whenever you do get a chance to pick it up, it's like, just enjoy them. Enjoy it, like, and that's kind of full circle, is like how we started talking about how Capcom's been doing a great job with Resident Evil. Just enjoy these moments where these games are actually of quality, and we can still, like, have a physical copy of the game, because, like, who knows, we have no control or knowledge of when that might cease to exist, if it does. So it's like, just kind of, be happy that we're getting a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. Be happy that Silent Hill is kind of making a comeback, and at least for the time being, we can still play them. I mean, there's still quality, and that's one thing that's been enlightening, is that there is always still gonna be, like, something worthwhile in games. And it might take, who knows, it might take, like, a market crash. Like, we're talking about the Atari crash. I remember, like, the E.T. game they made in the 70s was, like, just so like just monumentally bad that it crashed the video game industry. But from that crash, you had like the NES and all these new consoles coming up and newer games. So it's like, who knows? This could ultimately pave the way for something a lot more positive down the line.
And if it wasn't for Nintendo going with Panasonic, we would have never gotten the Sony PlayStation.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess...
There you go. There you go, right
accentuate the positives. Thanks, Atari, for fucking up everything. And also, if it wasn't for Atari fucking everything up, I don't think arcades would have been as big as they became in what, the late 80s and even into the 90s. So, thanks for the fuck up. And, you know, sometimes shit's got to burn to grow something new and something better. But I mean, I think the next topic for the next recording, next episode is opening up with what we possibly might think the next Resident Evil mainline release 10 could actually encompass while going through different avenues and things to talk about. Because we really don't have much of a script for this. We just kind of were blurting as we go, and I think that makes it a lot more fun as you can just kind of veer left, go straight, and then turn right from a conversation perspective.
Yeah. I mean, as the audience could probably deduce by our multiple tangents, this is more free-flowing. But no, I do think that kind of discussing the future of Resident Evil, where that's going to go, will be really fun. And just seeing what we think is going to happen with 10. Because, I mean, that's kind of where the crossroads are heading. We're all building towards that. And with 9, we were left off on a cliffhanger, so there's a lot of speculation to be had.
Yeah.
So, yep, I mean, that's just Capcom preparing us for what is to come.
Yeah.
So, again, thank you, Rick, for your time here. What we've been talking for is over, an hour and 15 minutes. So this will be fun, condensing it into a workable episode. So I think we got a lot of good quality content. But until then, folks, we will see you all later, and leave a comment down below what you thought, kind of what we talked about. Do you agree? Do you disagree on anything? Resident Evil, games, digitalization, etc. And until then, Rick, if there's anything you want to say, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, no, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please leave a comment. My channel will be in the description. Hop on over. Watch me speak mostly monotonely playing video games. It's a great hobby. I love doing it. I'm happy I'm back doing it. And it's been a joy having Sal come out. It was last year and then again this year. It's just been fun. So and this kind of brought me back into talking with Sal a lot more, and then doing this podcast. So hopefully keep this going and keep our channels going. And I'll end with we're that 0.001% of people that actually met online and became friends online. So there is hope out there.
Absolutely, we're the inspirational story. All right, folks. Well, until then, we'll see you guys later. Peace.